Alright guys, so on Sunday afternoon I was trolling on Reddit and I came across this post. Foolish for having 150k plus on a high yield savings account. And immediately I thought, yeah. But then I realized I actually don't know anything about high yield savings account. And then I humbled myself and I started doing research. And that led to a rabbit hole and I learned a lot about high yield savings account, specifically how Wealthfront can offer a 5.3% yield, now 4.8%. And if you're wondering how they can do that, this video is for you. So OP, the original poster, is a male in his 20s living in an MCOL area, which stands for medium cost of living area. He has no plans to buy a house in the next year, and if you think about an MCOL, think Philly. So in Philly, he is spending around 4K per month, which is really high considering my monthly expenses is around 2.5k living in Fairfax, Virginia. But I really have no ways to criticize him because in his Charles Schwab brokerage, he has invested 230k. So for a 20-something-year-old, he is doing phenomenally. What he did teach me is that he is currently parking all of his money, which means like his paychecks and otherwise, into Wealthfront'S cash account, earning a nice 5.3% APY, which right now is around 4.8% APY, and we'll talk more about that later. So for those of you guys wondering what a HYSA is, a high yield savings account, it literally is what it is named after. It's a savings account and it offers a higher APY than your checking account, which I think offers 0%. But anyways, the high yield savings account is something that I actually used before, believe it or not. But in Canada, we call it a high interest savings account. And the first one I started was sometime when I was 16 for around like 2.5% with HSBC. So here are the pros and cons of Wealthfront. For the pros, we have high APY, 4.8%, and you can get 5.3%. I'll just show you how a little bit later in this video. There's no fees, there's early direct deposit. You get a debit card for purchases and withdrawals with over 19,000 ATMs for free. They also have FDIC insurance of up to $5 million versus $250,000 at other banks. There's only one con with Wealthfront, and that is no cash deposits. So the really crappy thing about Wealthfront is that they don't have any ATMs and they don't have any branches, which means that if you have a physical check that you want to deposit, there's no way you can do that. You need another bank like Wells Fargo or something. But OP made a really smart move because his high yield savings account with Wealthfront is both safe and profitable, which leads me to thinking, all right, I'm gonna make the switch too. So when places offer such high yield, you're kind of left skeptical. You're left wondering, how can this be true? And stick with me here because I'm gonna explain how Wealthfront is able to offer such high yield at 4.8%, at 5.3%. And Wealthfront's clients were also asking the same question. How are you guys able to provide such high yield? So Wealthfront wrote a blog to address those questions. And what we found out was all banks can actually offer the same rates that Wealthfront can, but they just don't. So what we know is that when we deposit money into our banks like Chase or Wells Fargo, they in turn take that money and they loan it out to customers and they collect interest rates on those loans. Except the interest that they give back to us is very teeny, around like 0.01%. For example, you deposit $5,000 to Chase and they pay you 50 cents, which is 0.01% of $5,000 per year for giving your money to them. Then they use that money to lend it out to credit card users and earn 20% from overdue credit card bills. So of that $5,000, they make $1,000. After paying you your 50 cents, they keep the other $999.50. So that's fair, right? In addition to that, when the Fed raises interest rates, what happens is that banks loan on higher interest rates, thereby making more money, but still paying us the same 0.01%. So the answer to the question, how can Wealthfront offer their customers 4.8% compared to all the other banks offering their customers 0.01%? The answer is that all banks can offer the same rate as Wealthfront can, except that the other traditional banks offer their customers 0.01% because they can get away with it. The biggest fear of banks is losing their depositors, right? Because that means that they're losing money. But what they found out in the 2008 financial crisis was that when they lowered their interest rates to near zero, none of their depositors left them. That is why even when the feds raise rates, the traditional banks will still continue to charge higher rates to their customers that are borrowing from them, meanwhile giving their depositors almost nothing. So today we talked about the high yield savings account, but when it comes to investing, most people actually invest in ETFs, stocks, and things like that. And when it comes to that, most people choose Vanguard and they never think twice about it. But what they fail to ask is, what happens if Vanguard collapses? Well, in this video that I made here, we asked ChatGPT what would happen if Vanguard actually collapsed.